Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for Campbell County's premier sports talk show. It's Jake Miller Sports Talk on WLEF. Stay tuned.
The views, opinions, positions, or strategies expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff, management, or advertisers of WLAF.
And welcome into Jake Miller Sports Talk live right here on WLAF 1450 AM 100.9 FM Comcast Channel 1089. I'm your host Jake Miller alongside Daniel Collins, Matthew Moore, and an all-time great.
I don't know about that.
Former head coach of the Campbell County Cougars, Dwayne Wells, has joined us for tonight's show. It's going to be an exciting one, guys. Jake Miller Sports Talk is presented by the Marlowe Agency. They're here to protect you, your assets, everything you have, whether it be your life, your home, your boat, whatever it may be. He has got everything that you need. Give him a call today at 423-352-7735 and let him know you heard about it right here on Jake Miller Sports Talk, as we have a laundry list of stuff to talk about today. Guys are getting hired. Actually, no, nobody's getting hired yet. Everybody's getting extensions right now. People are getting fired. Some big names actually getting fired, so there's going to be some high-profile jobs opening up, which brings up some questions as to who is going where and who's going to make that next jump.
Jake, you ready for me to bless you with some good news?
I would love some good news.
What about our old buddy Billy Napier down there in Florida?
What about him?
Well, according to their backers and their athletic director, head coach Billy Napier for the Florida Gators is set to be fired this weekend. Win, lose, or draw, he is set to be fired.
So he could go out and win the game 70-0, and he is still getting his check and getting out the door.
According to the boosters said they will not support Napier anymore.
They owe him, what is it, $33 million? I think is what they owe him.
It's like $33 million. It's quite a big chunk of change.
That is a big number, but James Franklin is owed even more money than that. Now, there are some stipulations in his contract which require him to look for another job, either in broadcasting or coaching, to supplement some of that, and then Penn State will pay the difference. So it's not like he can just go to the house like Jimbo Fisher did. Jimbo Fisher might have had the best buyout contract that we've ever seen. The guy got paid, what, $76 million? Something absolutely ridiculous.
Enjoying every day of it.
I mean, yeah. I would too. Yeah. I mean, the guy gets to wake up, eat breakfast, and like $30,000 is in his account.
Yes, and nobody feels sorry for these coaches.
No.
I mean, because they're well off. I mean, they're, the Penn State's coach, he's going to have to try to get employment elsewhere, whatever that might be, and then whatever the difference is in pay, Penn State will have to make up that difference to honor the amount that's on his contract.
Well, and two, the only coach that I don't feel sorry for, of all the coaches that have been fired and supposed to have been paid a buyout, the only one I do not feel sorry for is Brian Niedermeyer. If you're using your own money and giving it to recruits, that's your own fault. You don't do that. You don't take the parents to La La Nails on your dime. You don't take them to Scrambled Jake's on your dime, and you don't give them bags, whether it's Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, of cash on your dime. There are people for that. Well, there were people for that. Now you can just do it freely.
But yeah, Jake, according to Yahoo Sports, they put out a big article about Bill Napier. The boosters of Florida are saying we're done with it. So, and he just signed that extension a month ago. So, Florida's they messed themselves over because I think his buyout would have been like 17.5 or something like that.
Well, he's not going to resign. He's going to wait to, he gets the axe, and because if he resigns, then all bets are off. But
yeah,
college football is ever changing before our eyes. In the last 3 years, and listen to all the hot takes on ESPN and all the talk shows and everything, and your name's out there every day. Everybody's being critical of you. Everybody's telling you what you didn't do, what you need to do, and it's easy for those people to talk about it. He's the man in the arena there, and he's been successful where he's been before. He worked at Alabama. He was down in the I think Louisiana College, and had success down there. And and you watch him on the sideline, and what's going through his mind. It's a tough job.
It is.
And you're expected to win.
Well, do you think he would maybe take, the Will Wade approach? We talk about coaches, that are really entwined in the state of Louisiana. You got a guy in Will Wade, tons of success at UT Chattanooga as a basketball coach, goes to LSU, obviously gets in all that trouble, and now I think he's at Murray State. And he will not take a big-time job anymore because he said he does not want the pressure. He does not want to have to deal with what he had to deal with before, which, granted, if he does now what he did before, it's all legal.
Well, I think that's why, Nick Saban kind of just, the way it was going with the money that was involved in the NIL money, and now they're going to pay him. And I think he just didn't want to fight that. He didn't want to accept it. And, of course, he's doing really good on game day on Saturdays.
Oh, yeah.
But, I think you look at Indiana's coach, and Indiana, and it's his second season. He's in the top 5 in the country. He might win the Big Ten.
He very well might.
Just signed a new contract extension today.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
8 years, $93 million.
Yeah, 8 years, $93 million.
Somebody's calling him. But I think you're going to see in the coaching profession, the coaches are going to get younger and younger, and because the coaches that are older, the way it's always been done, they just don't want to do that. It's just not the way they were brought up, the way they've coached all their life, and you have to adjust and you have to adapt, or you're going to get left out. And you're seeing that in it's cleared the playing field. You look at the SEC, the Big Ten. Look at what's happened to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt could beat anybody in the SEC, and the same thing in the Big Ten. With particularly with Indiana goes out and beats Oregon.
Right.
And
did not see that coming, by the way.
No.
And this guy he worked with Saban too at Alabama, but he went to a D2 up in Indiana, or Pennsylvania, Indiana University, I think it was. And then he went division, FCS, and then went on to Indiana. Look what he did his first year, and this year they're good. It's not something that's they're good, and Vanderbilt's good, and so it's leveled the playing field. You just don't have the depth that you used to have. Georgia don't have 8 to 10 defensive linemen they can run in. They got 5 or 6 now, so it's leveled the playing field to where anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday.
Right, and you look too in the past, and I want to get both of your all's opinions on this, but pre-NIL and pre-transfer portal, when you look at these teams that were down, like consistently down, like Vanderbilt, for example, always down. Kentucky might have an 8 or 9 win season here or there, but most of the time they're down. Indiana, basketball school.
Yes.
Just schools that we think of like that. And had this happened, had they had this success in, say, 2003, 2004, the NCAA would look at them and be like, okay, you're under investigation because you should not be a good football team.
Yeah, you could compare it to Duke. There for 3 or 4 seasons, Duke had a top-ranked women's basketball, top-ranked men's basketball, top 25 team football. And you're going, okay, well, where's how are they doing this? And now you're seeing it with other schools, like Coach Wells was saying. It's not the same football that I grew up playing, that Coach grew up playing and coaching. When I was at Carson Newman, Coach Sparks would always say, "Boys, y'all aren't here for the money. You're here for my good looks."
Nice.
And you got to know Coach Sparks to understand the way that he had a mindset to it. But it's not about that anymore.
It used to be about getting an education and getting a career and finding out who you are in those 4 years or 5 years, whatever it took. So, when I was in school, it was about getting a degree, what's your chosen field of occupation, and then being successful in life. And today it's about, and I'm not against players getting paid.
Yeah.
All right. But it's becoming all about that, and the money that's involved and invested in these schools, and that's the effect. If I'm a booster and I'm putting all this money in, then I expect results.
Right.
And just being 9-3 and 10-2, we want to be in the playoffs, and we want to be in the in the semifinals and finals every year, and that's where we're at. I mean, that's what happened to James Franklin at Penn State. I mean, he's been we don't know what he does during the week, with his players. I heard he had a great relationship with his players, but he couldn't get over the hump. And, the money people are, you are being held accountable by the boosters.
Right.
And not as much with the administration. And so that's the world we're living in now in major college football. And the teams that the SEC, and I think you're going to see the whole. It's ever changing, ever evolving. It's changing every year. We're in a 12-team playoff. We could go to 16, whatever it might be. But what's that? What does that do to the FCS schools, East Tennessee States, Tennessee Techs? What's that do to them? They don't have.
Basically turns them into a minor league system.
It does,
in a sense.
And they get their play when they have a really good player. They're going to leave and go to a bigger school and make money.
Right.
Man, you can't blame them.
No, I mean
we're setting the system up to where